Today on the BetaFiles, social media and the addiction that everybody has with it. We're going to look at, we're going to talk a little bit about the Netflix documentary, The Social Dilemma, and then look at Facebook's response. And then we're going to talk about the BetaFiles. So hang on to your diapers, babies. I'm the barber. This is the BetaFiles.
Here's the BetaFiles podcast.
On this episode, we're going to talk about social media. I hope you start over. And 3, 2, 1. Hello. Today we are going to talk about social media. The Facebook effect. What does it mean? What's actually happening out there with social media? There's a lot of people talking right now because of the documentary that Netflix put out, The Social Dilemma. There's a young man named Tristan Harris who has been doing the rounds. He was on Unsafe Space, I believe, and then most recently he was on Yang Speaks. I got to listen to that one. I've actually listened to it like 3 times since Monday because I keep getting interrupted while I'm trying to listen to it, so I have to go back and start over and listen to it. And that one's about an hour long, and I think the other one that he was on, I think it was Unsafe Space. I can't remember. I'll try and find the videos that I found because, thank God for YouTube's history, right? And I'll find that. But if you haven't seen the Social Dilemma documentary on Netflix, you need to stop my video and go watch it because it's much more important than what I'm going to have to say and what we're doing here at the BetaFiles. But it's an interesting documentary, and it explains a lot. And it doesn't just talk about Facebook and Twitter. It also talks about Google, because Google was heading all of this. Google figured out several of the methods that Facebook and Twitter and Instagram and all those, and of course YouTube, would eventually employ in the current market for social media. So the thing that you got to understand about social media is the reason why it's so infective, and I'm going to use the word infective, not effective, but infective, is because it's an ad-based system. So it's based on marketing campaigns and getting you to engage. Now, social media did not invent marketing, right? Marketing has been very controversial for a long time. A lot of the dystopian writers of the 50s, 60s, and 70s were writing about how if you want to control the masses, just market them. Just market to them correctly. And it's effective. It works, right? I mean, marketing is a massive industry. So what social media did was, thanks to Google and their ad-based, hold on, let me, there we go. And their ad-based platform, I guess you'd call it, or platform. What they did was they started using users as the thing that they're selling to ad companies. All right. So what you end up becoming is a piece of commodity, right? You become something that can be traded by the social networks to the ad agencies, to the people who are buying and getting and paying for that ad placement, right? So that's the base model for social media. And of course, when social media first started, that wasn't the base model. The idea when social media begins back in the 2000s is that we're going to make money off of people communicating back and forth to each other. That model has been long gone, because now they don't care if you're communicating with each other. What they care about is how many times you're going to click. As long as you're clicking, they're making money. All right, and that's the end game. They have to, because it's an ad-based system, in order for them to make money, they have to get you to click on things, right? And so that's social media. The problem is that the algorithms have become so good that we have, as a culture, our polarization that we had before has grown exponentially to a point where it's getting much more dangerous. One of the arguments that we're going to look at when we look at this Facebook document where they responded to the social dilemma is this idea that polarization has always been around. And it has. They're right. You can look through history and see how there are political polarizations throughout history. The difference between this time right now and all the other times before is that it's readily at your fingertips, right? This little beast right here can set off a war in a heartbeat, right? This is the new Helen of Troy right here, right? It's the device that launched a thousand ships, and it's really crazy how, as a culture, we've kind of let this happen to ourselves. So a lot of this is the social networks' fault, and a lot of it's our fault. Like we share the blame in all this. So what I want to talk about today is basically how do we get out of it? Because it's really piling on to these social media companies. Although it's really popular, it's really fun, it really gets us nowhere because they're so big. They're so big. It's going to take gargantuan size efforts to really get these companies to change, right? And of course, it's going to take a lot of effort to get Americans off of them and get Americans to change their habits when it comes to social media and change the way they engage with other people on social media. It's scary right now. And it's, I'm a big fan of Jonathan Haidt. And he's been, for several years now, he's been throwing up the red flag saying, this is hurting the youth of our culture. They're depressed. They're more depressed. They're more anxious. There's a ton of research that points to they're getting a lot of these social anxiety problems and these mental illnesses are being triggered hardcore by social media. On the flip side of that, you've got the adults who are becoming more and more polarized. They're spreading more and more disinformation, not on purpose, but because of the social rings that they stay within in the social media groups, and they pass it on. You don't know how many times, I'm not on Facebook or Twitter anymore, and pretty soon I'm going to be leaving Instagram as well. And I'll tell you a funny anecdote about Instagram, what happened to me on Instagram, that made me finally say, okay, I've had enough with Instagram. But I got off Facebook and Twitter back in January, and it is now October, and it has been wonderful that I'm not on these two platforms anymore, because it's now, unfortunately, and I'm going to talk about this too, the addictive nature of social media. And I fell into this trap, and I'm going to have to cut the cords on YouTube as well, and I'll explain a lot of that towards the end. But what has happened is that I've replaced all that time that I was spending on Facebook and Twitter. I've now replaced it with YouTube. And so now I've got to get out of that too, because the algorithms are very powerful, and they are designed specifically to get you hooked and keep you locked in so that you're constantly coming back. So I'm going to have to find, I'm actually going to force myself to do alternative things in the mornings when I get up, instead of getting on YouTube or getting on any kind of social media platform. Because the ad-based model is destructive, right? It is, it creates so many social problems because the end game is profit at all costs, right? You got to get the money. And so the corporations that are running these things are trying to get as much money as possible and keep the shareholders happy. And the way they do that, in the case of the social media companies, is they sell ads. That's where they make their money. And you'll see here in a minute when we clip over to the Facebook response to the Social Dilemma documentary, they admit it right up front. This is an ad-based system, right? We're not selling you the product. We're not selling you as a product. But they're misinterpreting what it means when people say that individual users of the social media platforms are the commodity that's being sold, because they are. Whenever you get onto a social media platform, whether it's Facebook or Twitter or Snapchat or Instagram, you are a commodity. And the companies, although they started out saying, okay, we want to create a really cool experience for people, what the experience is, or, that was the original business plan, right? The business plan has shifted now to, we need to make as much money as possible to keep the shareholders happy. And the only way we're going to make money is by selling ads. And in order for people to actually engage with the products that the ads are selling, we have to keep the people involved and engaged. So you are a commodity when you get into a social media network. Okay, even YouTube, right? So right now, because YouTube is the one that I'm using the most right now, I am a commodity for YouTube. You're watching this video right now, you are a commodity for YouTube. We are all individual commodities for YouTube. We are what's being sold. And what happens is that YouTube is going to sell as many advertisements as they can to you, the user, and myself. And if you look over, if you're watching me on a tablet or you're watching me on a computer, if you're listening to this on the podcast, good for you. But if you're watching the video, over on the right-hand bar or underneath, depending on which device you're watching, the first thing that's there is an ad, and then underneath it are suggested videos that are related to themes that are related in this video. When I get done with this video and I edit it and I upload it to YouTube, I'm going to put keywords in. I'm going to put tags in where it will show up in more search results to get me more viewers, so that viewers keep coming back to the BetaFiles. This is the name of the game, right? And I'm going to talk about all that at the end of the video, what's going to happen with the BetaFiles, because I've made a few pretty big decisions about the BetaFiles as a whole. And these were ideas and decisions I was thinking about before I saw the Social Dilemma. The Social Dilemma just pretty much sealed the deal for me. So like I said, I got off the two big ones back in January before I even knew about this documentary. Because I understood what the algorithm was doing to me. I saw it. I figured it out. And I've also figured out how to manipulate. And this is what's kind of a game for me. I've figured out ways to manipulate the YouTube algorithm in ways that I was not able to manipulate the Facebook or Twitter algorithms. So when I would open up Facebook or Twitter, I was seeing stuff that it was polarizing, and anytime, this should be a red flag for any human being. Anytime you open up your device, whatever it is, the minute you see something that upsets you, shut the thing off. Don't engage with it. Don't keep reading. Just shut it off and get off. Because that post is doing two things. Number one, it's inciting you. And number two, it is put there specifically to keep you locked in. So that you're going to be hooked on you're going to be inside the app for a long period of time, dealing with this, obscure slight against whatever you think, whatever moral that this post is attacking in your reality. Just shut the thing off. Don't read it. As soon as you glance at it, just shut the device off. Put it down, walk away. Take a deep breath. I'm going to tell a little bit on my wife because she'll come to me and she will tell me things like I read this in the news. She'll tell me it's in the news. And of course, the first question I have, where did you find it in the news? What news outlet? Well, it was on Facebook. Okay, stop right there. That's not news. That's Facebook, right? But she'll say CNN is saying it too. Then show me the CNN article from CNN, right? Don't show me what somebody has said on Facebook. She has come home many times there. Everybody's talking about it on Facebook, and I have no idea what she's talking about. And then I'll Google whatever the story is, and you'll see it's buried, which means it's not legit. Because typically, one of the good things about Google is if it's a big story, it'll have the larger, because they pay out the nose for this, it'll have the larger media outlets towards the top of the hits, right, of the search results. And then what you have to do when you get into that conundrum, because the media outlets have gotten just as bad, is you have to comb through and try and figure out from both sides what's actually going on. The real story is always here, where you have MSNBC and Fox News, or Washington Post and Washington Times, or New York Times and New York Post. They're always on the opposite end. So what you have to do is kind of read both and figure out, okay, what's actually happening here, because they're not telling the full story. And they're spinning it, right? So it's to find real news, real objective news anymore, you have to do some work. And that's a product of social media as well, because in order for them to make a solid profit, right, they have to silo you, right? So, and this is one of the gimmicks. One of the things, well, not gimmicks, but this is one of the lies that social media perpetuates, is this idea that everybody's seeing the same stories. And the reality is you're not. Your news feed looks completely different from somebody else's, no matter who they are. If you're a husband and your wife and you're both on Facebook or Twitter, and you follow relatively the same people, but there are some differences down underneath, right? Different people that you follow. It's going to affect your news feed, so much so that your news feed and her news feed look completely different, right? It might show up as the top story on your news feed. It may be buried on hers. So it's so this idea that everybody's seeing the same thing is a lie, and they perpetuate that lie because through social programming. I mean, they've taught us how to do this. They have programmed us to use their algorithms so that the algorithm can then use us, right? So it's a two-way thing, but they programmed us to be this way. And they continue to program you every day that you're on any kind of social media. Again, my big thing, and I don't want to sound preachy, but my big thing is YouTube, and I'm going to have to get off YouTube. I'm getting ready to leave Instagram. I'm going to have to get off of YouTube. That's going to be tough. It's going to be just as tough as me leaving Facebook back in January. That was hard when I finally closed it down. And I got the message. As soon as I hit, delete, it said, well, your account will not be deleted for, so many days, just in case you want to come back. And I'm like, God. You know, I wanted to call my good old Mark and say, dude, just delete the fucking thing. Please, just get rid of the shit. So, but whatever. All right, so let's look at the response that Facebook had to the social dilemma. And I want to go through this point by point because a lot of the stuff that they're addressing, they don't actually address the problems, right? They're just, it's an automatic defense. Whoa, wait a minute, fellas, we're not really that bad. So the key to the social dilemma is that, or the plea in the social dilemma is that we need to have a conversation about social media and how social media is affecting us as a society and as a culture and as a world. It's affecting our world, right? The global economy, the global network. It's affecting everybody. In the social dilemma, they actually talk about Myanmar and the role that Facebook had in Myanmar during the genocide. And then, of course, the exodus of the the Muslims. Rohingyan, I think. I think that's the right word, the Rohingyans. Anyway, as they fled, as they got out of the country. So the first thing that Facebook says is we should have conversations about the impact of social media on our lives, but the social dilemma buries the substance in sensationalism. Actually, they don't. There's not a lot of sensationalism in it. They back everything up with fact-based analysis, experts talking about how the algorithms actually work. These experts are people who built the algorithms, who wrote the algorithms originally. And they mention here, rather than offer a nuanced look at technology, they actually do at the end. They say this is actually, the problem isn't that the technology is bad, it's the way that we're being taught to use it, right? So it is a very nuanced look at technology. It gives a distorted view of how social media platforms work to create a convenient scapegoat for what are difficult and complex social problems. Convenient scapegoat. Here's the problem. It's not a convenient scapegoat, no more than alcohol or heroin is. It's a drug. It's a drug just like anything else. Because it creates... and you've heard this over and over. Well, you should have heard this over and over by now, and that's probably why. I don't know. Anyway, but what it does is it gives you that shot of dopamine. Now, it does it through interaction. Not every, you don't have to have drugs and alcohol to get that dopamine hit, right? Anything can, there are lots of things in life that are very pleasurable that cause that dopamine hit. And when you're used to getting that dopamine hit a lot, when your brain is used to getting that dopamine hit a lot from that thing, you want more and more and more of that thing. And that's where the addiction comes in, right? Sugar has done that to all of us. Caffeine does it to all of us, right? Sex does it. Roller coasters does it. Sitcoms do it, right? Why do we keep coming back to sitcoms? Because we're laughing at them, and while we're laughing, we're getting that dopamine hit. So a convenient scapegoat is an understatement. It's another drug, and they know that. They know it. Don't think they didn't have psychologists and sociologists helping them write some of this shit, right? And I mean the algorithms. The film's creators do not include insights from those currently working at the companies or any experts that take a different view to the narrative put forward by the film. All right, so here's the thing. There's this one guy at the very beginning who's really nervous. He's like nervous, and he's looking around, and he actually makes a comment. This is why I spent months and months talking to lawyers about this. Films creators do not include insights from those currently working at the companies because they've probably told them, don't talk. Right? Let's get real. We know how corporations work. They will use a strong arm in a heartbeat if they have to. They also don't acknowledge, critically or otherwise, the efforts already taken by companies to address many of the issues they raise. But the efforts don't... The biggest problem that these social media companies have not tackled is the ad-based model and how the algorithms are designed to isolate us within a set so that we are programmed over and over and over to keep clicking the same thing so that we keep getting the same ads. They won't talk about that. Like the social media companies won't talk about that. The efforts that they've made are piss poor. Right? Yes, Facebook has rewritten the algorithm for the news feed several different times and said that they're going to try. I remember a couple years ago, they were going to get, after 2016, they were going to redo the news feed so that you would only see news from your friends, people that were in your social groups, right? What they weren't telling you is they were only going to silo the specific friends in your groups that agree with you on most of your points to a certain percentage, right? And then the information that your friends bring in, well, that's not Facebook's problem. That user brought that story in and further put you down into the silo. So, it sounds good. Those efforts, no, they were just figuring out another way to keep you in the silo. That's it. And again, it's not nefarious in that, they're trying to create division. It makes money. It's the same thing with the cable news channels. It makes money. It's about ratings in cable news. It's about ads in social media. It's about money. That's all it's about. It's about money. And you are the vehicle through which they get their freaking money. Now, you're not giving them money, and they can say, well, Facebook is free. And they actually say that here in a second. They say Facebook is free. No, it's not. Right? Because you're actually spending time on Facebook. You're giving them time so that they can then give you ads. So it's not free. All right, so here are the core points the film gets wrong. Number 1, addiction. Facebook builds its product to create value, not to be addictive. Please. Our newsfeed product teams are not incentivized to build features that increase time spent on our products. Instead, we want to make sure we offer value to people, not just drive usage. For example, in 2018, we changed our ranking for newsfeed to prioritize meaningful social interactions and deprioritize things like viral videos. The change led to a decrease of 50 million hours a day worth of time spent on Facebook. That isn't the kind of thing you do if you are simply trying to drive people to use your services more. True. What was also happening in 2018? Facebook had gone up before Congress. There was a small migration away from Facebook. Now, is that small migration 50 million hours? I don't know. But I'm sure it contributed to it. We collaborate with leading mental health experts, organizations, and academics, and have our research teams devoted to understanding the impact that social media may have on people's well-being. Well, good for you. We want people to control how they use our products, which is why we provide time management tools like an activity dashboard, a daily reminder, and ways to limit notifications. We've already started dedicating product teams to focus on other areas like loneliness, racial justice, mentorship, mental health, and responsible innovation. We will continue innovating and coming up with new tools to help people stay safe. No, they will continue to create tools that will keep people on Facebook. Here's the thing. All right, so let's talk about the time management things. If you're a Facebook user right now, do you know there's a time management option on your Facebook page? Probably not. You probably can't see it. There's a little green button here with a heart in it. Okay? This little green button, if you open it, tells you how much time I've been on my phone today. You know, it's the time management thing for the Samsung. When I went to go find that app, first of all, it doesn't show up if you swipe up. You have to tell the Samsung, for it to show up here, because it doesn't actually show up here. You have to go into the settings of the phone and go to, let's see, is it the advanced features? Digital well-being. So here's the actual app in the settings, and you can see that on the first page, it's not, you can't see this, but trust me when I tell you this. When you first bring up the settings on the first page, whoops, I hit the location thing. It's not there, and you actually have to scroll about half a page down to find it. Okay, so it's not, if we're so worried about digital well-being, these devices should have it front and center. I had to go into the settings of the app from the settings page to find the app itself and then tell it to show up as an app. This is just Samsung, and of course, who's Samsung? You know, it's Android, right? Same thing with Facebook. You probably don't know where those digital well-being things are on Facebook. You know why? Because they don't advertise them. If they're that committed to it, and if Android is that committed to it, the shit would be on the front page as soon as you turn on the phone for the first time. It should be the very first thing you see. Set your digital well-being settings. The first time you log into Facebook, it should say, would you like to set your digital well-being settings? And set it immediately, and you shouldn't be able to reach your news feed until you do. That would be commitment. But they don't do that. And again, how many of you with Facebook who still are on Facebook know where that setting is? You probably don't. And just like deleting the account, you probably have to Google where it is to find out where on Facebook it actually is. Because that's what I had to do to delete my account. I couldn't find where I could delete my account. I had to Google it. Number 2, you are not the product. Facebook is funded by advertising so that it remains free for people. This is, again, a lie. It's not free because it's taking your time. The commodity is your time for ad market, ad revenue. The more time you give them, the more ad revenue they can charge. That's how this works. You are the product. Your time spent on Facebook is the product. Don't be fooled. Facebook is an ad-supported platform, which means that selling ads allows us to offer everyone else the ability to connect for free. This model allows small businesses and entrepreneurs to grow and compete with bigger brands by more easily finding new customers. But even when businesses purchase ads on Facebook, they didn't know who you are. We provide advertisers with reports about the kinds of people who are seeing their ads and how their ads are performing, but we don't share information that personally identifies you unless you give us permission. We don't sell your information to anyone. You can always see the interests assigned to you in your ad preferences. If you want, remove them. Oh, well, thank you, Facebook. Where are the ad preferences? All right, so let's talk about this. First of all, they completely, this particular point right here has nothing to do with the social dilemma. The only thing that has to do with the social dilemma is that first line, you are not the product. Everything else that they talk about in this little paragraph has nothing to do with the argument that the social dilemma is putting forth. Okay? So let's take a look at a couple things. The model allows small businesses and entrepreneurs to grow and compete with bigger brands by more easily finding new customers. That sounds good, but even when businesses purchase ads on Facebook, they don't know who you are. Nobody says that they do. That's not the data that, and this right here is rhetorical spin 101. Facebook collects data on you, not so they can have your social security number and your birth date and all that mess, right? They collect data on you so that they can match you with an advertiser, with products. And they watch what products you're actually trying to get. And they listen. You know, I've told students, I've had students do this several times over the past couple of years because it happened to my wife, and then I tried it and it worked. Open Facebook and on your phone and lay your phone down and walk away. And have have you or your spouse or your boyfriend or girlfriend or your brother or sister or something like that talk to you about some products. Different products. Name brands if you can. And then watch Facebook the next day. Those name brands will come up because they're listening. And they're not listening for nefarious reasons. I tell people all this all the time because we've got like 5 echoes. They're like, aren't you afraid that Amazon can hear everything you say? I'm like, I don't care, because Amazon's listening for keywords so that they can sell me something. So the next time I open my Kindle and I hit the Shop Amazon button, whatever it was I was talking about will show up in my preferences. And I really don't care. I mean, that doesn't bother me. I don't care. What I care about is the fact that I'm being manipulated through what I'm choosing to engage with, right? Like if I actually mentioned last night that I wanted a lawnmower, and a leaf blower showed up in my Amazon recommendations this morning. Okay, I don't really care because at the time I was looking for sneakers. I wanted to go and search and see if a certain pair of sneakers had dropped in price or not. So I saw the leaf blower and I'm like, yeah, I don't care. So, because here's the thing, we don't have a yard. So, and when I mentioned the lawnmower yesterday, it was in joking, I was just kind of joking that I would get a lawnmower. So I don't care. I really don't care. What I do care about is when I go on YouTube and they create these rabbit hole options that once you start, man, it is hard to stop the rabbit hole. And you know what I'm talking about. eBay was the first one to really collect on the rabbit hole thing, because eBay, I remember back in the day when eBay first launched, my ex-wife and I would go on hour-long rabbit hole dives on eBay, right? And then, of course, social media companies come along and say, what if we could do that with other things? And all that does is feed the algorithm more information so that they can further constrict the silo that you're in. That's all it's doing, right? And it's keeping you satisfied by giving you that dopamine hit. We provide advertisers with reports about the kinds of people who are seeing their ads and how their ads are performing. How do you think they're getting that data? So even though they're saying Facebook is funded by advertising, you are not the product, they're telling you in their response there that you are actually the product. Facebook, we provide advertisers with reports about the kinds of people who are seeing their ads. Right there it is. You are the commodity. Algorithms. Facebook's algorithm is not mad. It keeps the platform relevant and useful. Okay. Oh, and then they've got a little video about how the newsfeed works. Isn't that sweet? All right. Facebook uses algorithms to improve the experience for people using our apps. Just like any dating app, Amazon, Uber, and countless other consumer-facing apps the people interact with every day. That also includes Netflix, which uses an algorithm to determine who it thinks should watch the Social Dilemma film, and then recommends it to them. This happens with every piece of content that appears on the service, and they're right. Algorithms and machine learning improve our services. For example, at Facebook, we use them to show content that's more relevant to what people are interested in, whether it's posts from friends or ads. Portraying algorithms as mad may make good fodder for conspiracy documentaries, but the reality is a lot less entertaining. All right, so let's talk about the algorithm. They admit everything about the algorithm, but then they actually back up the argument of the film and confirm it for the film when they say algorithms and machine learning improve our services. For example, at Facebook, we use them to show content that's more relevant to what people are interested in, whether it's posts from friends or ads. If you watch the movie or you watch the documentary, they spend a lot of time talking about how this process works with the algorithm. And of course, at the top here, any dating app, Amazon, Uber, and countless other consumer-facing apps that people interact with every day. Here's the problem. With the exception, if you look at the list they give you there, Amazon and Uber, okay, Amazon is selling you physical products, okay? Their business is not ad-generated. Their business is to get you to buy physical products. So, like, if I buy this, which I actually did get this coffee mug off Amazon, right? For a couple weeks, they're going to show me other coffee mugs like this because they know I like that one, right? If I buy a shirt, if I bought this shirt off of Amazon for a couple weeks, they would see this. And the fact, once the algorithm realizes I'm not buying that shirt, it'll move on to something else, okay? But they're trying to sell you something physical, okay? A little bit of self-control, the Amazon algorithm doesn't really do much to you if you are able to contain any kind of shopping impulse, right? Uber. All right, let's talk about Uber. That only works for people that live in metropolitan areas that use Uber a lot, right? People like me who've used Uber maybe 10 times in my life, it doesn't work on me because I don't need it every day. Facebook, however, this is the problem, and this is what they talk about in the film. The social media companies are designed, the algorithms in those that they use is designed to keep you on that screen at all costs. Amazon is not designed to keep you on the screen. Amazon is designed to sell you things. Uber is not designed to keep you on the screen. If you were stuck on the screen, Uber would be out of business because you wouldn't see the car when it pulled up and then took off without you. Think about that, okay? So their argument doesn't make any sense, but then that second paragraph proves, admits everything that the film is saying, right? All right. Number 4, data. Facebook has made improvements across the country to protect people's privacy. Has nothing to do with privacy. Nothing. Again, and Facebook can say this all day long. It's a ruse. Because Facebook's not collecting your data to find out who you are. Facebook is collecting your data to see trends. If they match you up with 10, 20, 30, 50, 1,000 more people that have the same trends, they have won. And you become more valuable because now they can charge the ad revenue, the marketing more for those for that ad revenue, since it's now showing to 10,000 to 1,000 people instead of one person. Right? So the ad becomes more profitable. Polarization. We take steps to reduce content that could drive polarization. No, they don't. If they actually took real steps, and then they talk about the elections down here, so we'll hit both of these in the same time. Here's the thing. If they really wanted to take real steps to reduce content that could drive polarization, then stop banning people. That's simple. The moment you ban somebody, you're going to increase their stock. People are going to go to other platforms to find out what that person is saying now. Now that Facebook has put him off, now that Alex Jones is not on Facebook, where are they going? They're going to InfoWars. They're getting it straight from the horse's mouth. I mean, come on, this is not rocket science. It's stupid. Oh my God, Trump, sent out a message that was fact-checked by the Washington Post, and Washington Post said this is not true. So we're going to pull it off Facebook. Well, now you have just enraged his base, and you have increased. Here's the thing. By doing that, they actually increase the activity on their social network because the supporters are going to rally, and there's going to be all kinds of activity, and that means more ad revenue. It's all about the money. We don't care about polarization, right? I'm like the social media companies. They don't care. In fact, polarization is good because now you've actually got control over who wants to see what as far as ads go. Elections, same thing. Same thing. And then they got fake news down here. They make a wonderful point in the film. Oh, excuse me. You're talking about billions upon billions upon billions of posts per day. Do you really think Facebook goes through every single one of them to fact check them? And who said that Facebook is the end-all be-all of fact checkers? Come on. Really? You're a corporation. You have one goal only. That is to make your shareholders happy, make a profit for them. That is your goal. Don't lie to us. Don't tell us that, our goal at Facebook is to, what did it say again? Let's go back up to the top here. Convenient scapegoat. Convenient scapegoat. They make a solid point in the movie. It says, ask some of these tech giants, these guys that run these tech companies, ask them if their children are on social media, because they're not. Their children are not allowed to use their product. That should tell you everything you need to know about Facebook. That should tell you everything you need to know about Jack Dorsey and Twitter and YouTube and Instagram and Snapchat and WhatsApp and all that stuff. That should tell you everything. Right? All right, so let's talk about the BetaFiles. As I said, as I mentioned earlier in the video or the podcast, I've been making some serious decisions, coming to some serious decisions about what I want to do with the BetaFiles. Now, one of the things that there's several different factors here. Number one, we're not getting a lot of traffic, which is fine. That doesn't bother me. So it actually frees me up to experiment with a lot of different things. So maybe we'll pick up traffic somewhere else. Maybe won't. Maybe we won't. Maybe we'll fade off into obscurity and I'll go on to do something else. As I said before, I got off Facebook and I'm still alive. I got off Twitter and I'm still alive. I'm actually happy not being on Twitter, right? And I'm getting ready personally to take down my personal account on Instagram. And then later, the BetaFiles account will come down. And then, of course, my BetaFiles channel on YouTube. On June 1st, or not June 1st, on January 1st, when we launch the new Substack, okay, when we make the switch to Substack, several things are going to happen. Massive media things are going to happen. Number one, the BetaFiles channel is going to shut down on YouTube. So there will be no more BetaFiles on YouTube starting January 1st, 2021. That's the first thing. It will only be podcasts. Or you can get, you will, let me back up, not only be podcasts, you will be able to get podcasts still on whatever podcast app that you use, whether it's Google or iTunes or whatever. So we're still going to be doing the podcast. There just won't be video for it anymore. So we're going to take the videos down completely. What does that mean for Now See This Here Now Then? Now See This Here Now Then is going to be posted or hosted on the old BetaFiles.com website when we move everything to Substack. Okay, so you'll be able to go to the old BetaFile. You'll be able to go to thebetafiles.com and find new episodes of Now See This Here Now Then there. Okay, that's where I'm going to post them. That's where I'm going to upload them and host them. All the videos from the YouTube channel will also be there, so you'll be able to go and watch them there. So that will be there as well. So you can see that. So I'm not going to be on YouTube anymore. I'm not going to be on Vimeo. I thought about doing Vimeo, but Vimeo uses algorithms too. And well, I don't know. We may end up on Vimeo. I'll give you an update on that. I keep going back and forth with that because here's the thing. Substack just recently added a plugin to where we can post through Vimeo on Substack. So that may be a new place. I don't know. But I can tell you now that the plan right now is no more videos starting January 1st. It'll all be the podcast. And of course, that will be hosted still where you can get the podcast, wherever you're listening. Okay, that's where the podcast will still be. It's not going anywhere. Writing content, written content is going to go up. We'll be doing a lot more written content on Substack. The reason why I'm going to Substack, and I think I mentioned this before, it is a subscription-based service. It is not ad-based. It is not part of the ad market. I will tell you now so you don't call me a hypocrite. In the early days of this, in the first few months of us moving over to Substack, I am going to be advertising on Google because you've got to get people to actually want to buy your products. So I am going to step into the matrix for a hot minute and try to get people to sign up to the Substack. And once I get to, there's a specific number that I want. It's not an insane number, so don't think, well, he's probably waiting for 20,000. No. There's, I think it's like 100 or 200 people. If I can get 200 people, it'll pay for not only the Google advertising that I need, but it will also start helping to pay for hosting services and that kind of thing. So that's the first goal, and I have several different goals. The ultimate goal is 600 people. If I get to 600 people, I will be making enough to where I can quit my second job. It's just going to take 600 people to get me to that point where I don't have to work a second job. So that's the big goal, right? And then anything above 600 will just be an added bonus, right? And at that point, once I get to 600, I'll stop advertising on Google. So knock on wood, hopefully it'll only take a few months. It may take longer than that, you know? So that's the plan. So we're going to be shutting all the social media stuff down. We've already shut down, like I said, in the spring, I shut down the BetaFiles Twitter page. I had to shut down the BetaFiles Facebook page back in January when I shut down my account because Facebook won't let you have a business account unless you have a private account. That's another thing that Facebook does. They create these arbitrary rules that force you to engage more with Facebook. So that's what we're doing. Personally, I've taken a lot of apps off my phone that were distractions, and the digital well-being thing, I've been using it for about a month now. About 2 weeks now. I'm sorry. 3 weeks, maybe. 2 weeks. Between 2 and 3 weeks. Anyway. I've only you have a goal that you set, and my goal all day long is, I started out, I did an average, like the first 3 days, I checked my average, and I set my goal underneath my average, and the average was like 3.5 hours. And so my goal went to 2.5, and now my goal is down to 2. And I have beaten the 2-hour goal twice in the past 7 days. The 2 days that I went over, one day I was watching a podcast, an older podcast, when I could have easily have gone into Spotify and gotten it so I wouldn't have the screen time. So I had the video pulled up on YouTube, and you have to have that thing on in order to watch it. Otherwise, YouTube will shut everything down. And then the other day there was a lot of texting between my sons and I. And so I was constantly unlocking my phone and getting on text message, and it was, But other than that, I've stayed under. And so at the end of this week, I think Sundays are my reset days. I'll go to an 1.5-hour goal and see if I can keep it under an 1.5 hour. So just keep doing that, right? And just keep working down to where it's a half hour a day that I'm actually on my phone, which would be nice. Screen time, right? So, but so January 1st, the YouTube channel is going to go away. Everything's going to move to Substack, and the podcast will be, for now, there will be no video for any more podcasts. The Optic Poet as well, right? As far as Instagram goes, what we may do is, I'm probably going to shut down the Instagram page, but what we may do is transfer all the text messages. We are going to start doing the text messages from the living room again, but move those to my wife's page and her IGTV. And then, of course, post the audio only version on the podcast. So, yeah, that's it. Here's the thing. I want, and this is something that I've had to tell myself over and over. You don't have to have social media. Any social media. You don't have to have YouTube. You don't have to have Instagram. You don't have to have Twitter. You don't have to have Facebook. You don't have, and these things do nothing for you. Nothing. Well, they get me in touch with people that I haven't spoken to in years. Okay, good. How much do you talk to them now that Facebook's connected you? Did you even realize you missed them? All the things, all the reasons why we got on these social media platforms to begin with, all those different reasons, the social media companies themselves don't care about that anymore. They did originally. They don't care about it now. They don't even hold it as a priority. It's just a tagline. Facebook will help you connect. Do you need to? What about the connections in your real life? How are those holding up? So I said that I was going to tell my wife a little bit. When we sat down to watch The Social Dilemma, on and off throughout the movie, my wife was on her phone. So it will be harder for some than others. And I get that. And I'm not judging. But it will be hard for people to get off social media. And so we've got to either, we can't take the companies down. They're too big. But we can individually, we can choose, I'm not doing this anymore. I'm not going to feed the algorithm anymore. I would rather do something else. So that's what we're going to do with the BetaFiles. We probably won't be that successful with it, but we're going to work hard and we're going to just have fun with it and see what happens. And 10 years down the road, I may still only have 10 subscribers. Or right now we've got 23 on the YouTube channel. So 10 years from now, I may only have 23 at Substack. Right? And I never reached that 600, that magic 600 number. But I'm still going to do it because it's fun. And that's the thing. That's the other thing. Right? If you get into doing something like this, do it because it's fun. Don't do it to become famous. Don't do it to make a ton of money. Do it because it's fun. We're moving to Substack, not so I can make a ton of money. We're moving to Substack so I can make enough money that I don't have to work 2 jobs. Because I'm getting older. And teaching, 7 or 8 classes a semester is really wearing me down. I need a break. Right? So it's an end to, or a means to an end. So there you go. Make it a great day. Be safe, be healthy, and always remember that if the sun comes up, there's opportunity. So take it. I'm the barber. This has been the Beta Files.